The first thing I want to touch on is what kind of music did you grow up listening to? Like, who specifically were you listening to? Because a lot of the songs that, if not all of the songs that you released, they're very, they take me back to, you know, when I was a teenager and just make me feel like I'm young again. Like I want to sing every lyric, right? So what were you listening to growing up, MacKenzie?
I mean, I grew up on a cattle and bison ranch, so it was a lot of country music.
Yeah.
You know, anything from like Dixie Chicks to Shania Twain to Dina Carter. But I also, you know, like grew up when it was like Hilary Duff and like Britney Spears, like that pop world, and like Backstreet Boys. Like I feel like looking back, like I probably didn't have like the coolest taste in music because I was just like such a music like pop country like fan, like such a fan. And I still remember I had this like little pink like CD player, I guess it was like a boombox kind of thing, and I had like my first CDs ever were some of those ones I just mentioned, and you know, just like blared in my room, and like that's where I got to like listen to my music.
Well, and you know, it's funny. I grew up in the same era, it sounds like, and you look back and you go, maybe not the coolest to mention, but it is still like when you go back to that time, it was amazing because like you said, you blare it in your room and all you want to do is just sing every word. You mentioned Shania. We're going to talk about her as well. She was our feature artist of the week a couple weeks ago. She kicked the month off for us. But when you mentioned Britney, I mean, like that really defines for a lot of us who grew up in the 90s, especially young women, right?
Yep.
What it was like, what it was like to hang out in your room and just be by yourself and just dive into it. So it's cool that those were your influences. And so now that you're getting into music, how did you get into music? Like what made you in particular, listening to all these artists and all these, you know, songs, what made you go, I want to do this. This is for me.
Yeah, I think, you know, my parents put us in music lessons like our whole lives growing up. So I did violin, piano, vocal lessons, but it was all classical. And I loved music, but I never like connected with classical music. But I think my parents just wanted us to like read music. And I would always be like, I love it, but I wish it was like, I wish I could do something like Britney Spears or like Shania Twain. And just like have more freedom with it. Classical was so like strict. So I feel like that's where my like love of music started. And I would just like, you know, I did a lot of like musicals and stuff too, because I do a lot of acting. And so it was kind of like a bridge between like classical and musicals and not like loving those things and like loving pop and country music and just thinking like, I want to do this one day, but having no idea how to like know anybody in that industry. I mean, I grew up in such a small area, like nobody like had a record deal, or I didn't even know anybody who knew anybody who had a record deal.
Right.
So really for me, like so my older brother was like on Canadian Idol way back in the day, and he got a record deal, and I kind of like got to maybe meet some people through him, different genres, but like see that like, okay, you need a manager, you need a publisher, like all these things. And like I feel like I got educated through his experience.
You know, we're going to fast forward, of course, from the moment that, you know, you realized, okay, this is a business and, you know, that goes hand in hand with loving to sing and loving to perform and write. And then you signed this record deal, first Canadian artist with Big Loud. And the question I had for you was like, what was that process like for you? And what was going on in your head at that point in time? Were you kind of like pinching yourself, or were you just really like, okay, game on, let's do this? What was in your head at that time when you signed this deal?
Yeah, I mean, I was like probably a little bit naive and like cocky at the same time. Like I for sure thought I was going to get a deal in Nashville. Like I think like now knowing this city, I know how hard it is, but at that time I was so green and so fresh that I'm like, yeah, I'll for sure get a record deal. But I almost feel like that like at the time helped me like with that, like, you know, I do call it like being like super naive, but also being so confident because you just don't know any better. That I just kind of walked in. I'm actually sitting in their parking lot right now because I got to go in there after. But I walked into Big Loud and I met with Joey Moy, who now produces me, and one of the record label owners, because I knew him through my friend Dallas Smith. And I just like literally after we hung out one time, emailed him and said, I want you to sign me and I want you to do my record. And like, that's what you should do. and not knowing that like that doesn't really work like that. But he's like, okay, you need to calm down, and why don't you just like come and hang and meet some of the other people, like, and send me music, like what do you want your music to sound like, and let me come to a show. Like, it was a long process. It took months and months and months, but I never met with anybody else in town. I just like honed in on basically Joey, because I feel like he's just like a beast in the studio and like just so good. I was like, I just want him to do my records, and there was no other option for me. And I feel like I just kind of forced my way in.
Well, it's awesome that you link up with Joy Moy, because I mean, when we're talking about that pop, especially pop country fusion, oh my gosh, like Joy Moy is a name that comes up all the time for these big, huge songs that you just, again, want to sing over and over and over again. So that's amazing that you can link up. And sometimes it's serendipitous, right? Where you link up with just the right person at the right time and it makes sense for you. So it sounds like that's what happened for you. So that's pretty cool. And then, so now we go into About You, right? This song releases and it not only does super well, like it's number one. And you go, okay. So again, you're talking about being sort of naive and confident at the same time. Around when this song came out, like, you know, what was, first of all, what was it about this particular song that you connected with?
Yeah, I mean, I think this song, About You, you know, the idea of like of writing a song about somebody. I mean, I had done that like so many times, and it not being, you know, the lyric is like, there's one lyric in it like, no, this ain't no girl, gets the guy back in the last line. And the idea of like, this isn't your typical song about a guy, like it doesn't work out in this situation. And I've been in situations like that, and I kind of like, I love a good sad song, like I just always have, especially when it has like some tempo to it. So it just felt like the right thing. But you know, when we put it out, this has now been, since I signed my record deal to when I put out a song, has been 2.5 to 3 years later. So that like cockiness that I was talking about was gone, because I was kind of like, I mean, I feel like I wrote so many songs and we weren't ready to put anything out. And I was kind of like I was really frustrated with the whole process. And I was like, if I put this song out and it flops, like I'll probably get dropped. It'll probably be, you know, the end of my record deal. So I remember being like very, very anxious, and I hadn't put out music for a while. At that point, it had been like a long time. Very anxious to see like the reaction, and like if it doesn't go, this is probably it. And you know, it obviously did really well, and kind of like changed the whole game for me and for them. Like I feel like they were testing me out as well.
Yeah, because you're talking about, you know, the time between your debut single, right? And then About You, because, you know, most people would maybe assume if they didn't go back, right, that this was your debut single. It really wasn't. And I'm glad you mentioned that, MacKenzie, and that, you know, the confidence in between. You get your deal and you assume that, okay, you know, the artist must be just flying high and it's all gravy now, right? But no, you got to work, and then you got to put out songs, and then sometimes it just doesn't do as well as you thought it was going to do. But then here you are with About You. This goes number one. And then you release These Days, and you release 2 different versions of this song, which was amazing. So These Days, and I say that because, and that's why I started with, you know, what were you listening to? And you mentioned all the people that I imagine came together for this particular song, for These Days. Let's talk about the magic behind it, because not only being a huge top 40 hit, it also did well in the country scene. So what was the decision there to not only release 1 but 2 versions?
There, at the time, so we put out the country version of These Days, and it was like doing very well. Like it was, I mean, the label like tracks like Shazam numbers and repeat listens. Like they have all this like data that they track. I don't know anything about it. But they were just saying like, hey, this song is like really reacting. And I'm like, cool, that's awesome. And then I got a call one day that was like, hey, a bunch of pop stations have picked up the song. Like we didn't ask them to, they just did. And they're like, what do you think? Like they're playing your country version. Should we do a remix? Like, should we do a pop version and just see? And I was like, yeah, sure. But I was a little bit worried. Like I didn't want the country radio. I didn't want country radio to think that I was like trying to be pop, because I wasn't. It just kind of naturally happened. And then I also was like, and also if we put it at the pop and it just doesn't do well, like, is that the vibe? Like, do we want to? Anyways, we decided we were going to do it. And then we got this thing, I forget what it was called, but like something like new artist discovery kind of. And then all of a sudden, every single pop station in Canada picked it up. And it starts like climbing the charts like very, very fast. And then it started going over in Australia and like New Zealand, and it number one in Australia too. And it was just kind of like the song, it was just felt like it was like everywhere. And the crazy part was I was not, I'm trying to remember what year that was. I think it must have been like the back of 2019, I think. And I could be mistaken, but sometime in 2019. So I never got to like tour it because then COVID hit and everything was done. So, and right when actually we were taking it to US radio, COVID hit, and that kind of like wrecked all of our plans. But it's crazy because everything, like all my friends in Canada would be like, I heard it here, but I never got to hear it because I wasn't there.
Wow.
Like I didn't get to even play it really at any shows because of COVID.
Wow. And that breaks my heart for you, right? Like it really does. Because I mean, to be able to, and I imagine, of course, as an artist, you're in the studio and you release a song, you hear it and it's awesome. You hear it on the radio maybe, but then part of the joy has to be seeing the response, like actually seeing your fans singing to your song right in front of your face, just like you used to do when you were a little girl, right? And so that kind of breaks my heart.
Totally.
And I didn't even think I remember when it came out and I'm thinking, when was that? 2019. And I wasn't even thinking about the connection there that, after this does this huge thing, all of a sudden it's 2020 and it's like, whoa, you didn't really get to fully experience it. So that's wow, that's insane. And then you have seeing other people come out, and then again, that does well. So and we're like what's going on? You have to be like, I guess my question for you, MacKenzie, is, you're talking about being naive, and you said that, and then the confidence kind of came down in between, your debut and then About You. So where are you after these days, and then seeing other people with this release in particular, and the song? Like, let's talk about the song as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was very excited for seeing other people because I felt like it's just a song that, like, I feel like heartbreak songs, and that one particularly, missing somebody, I feel like that's such a universal feeling. And like, that's when you listen to music, to me, is like when you're kind of feeling like sad, or you want to, I don't know, like be like nostalgic about a past love. So I had a good feeling about that song, that it was going to do well. But also, at the same time, it's like, okay, at this point, we've had 2 number ones. I don't want to break my like run. And after seeing other people, we didn't get another number one. So I knew it was going to like be at some point, but I just felt really, really strongly about that song. And at this point, I'm like, yes, definitely gaining more confidence as I'm seeing like radio respond to me a little bit more.
Yeah. And okay. And so you have, now it goes number one. You've got 3 consecutive number ones, and taking it back to one of the artists you mentioned you were listening to when you were growing up, Shania, and you're breaking, like, this is the first time since Shania that's happened in Canadian country radio. So I imagine, right? You talk about your confidence level is coming up. Was there sort of also maybe a like a whoa moment that went with that, like, celebration for sure? But I'm just wondering, is there a part of you that kind of still is pinching yourself that this is happening, and maybe surprised, even though you have the confidence that, hey, I'm putting out a single, so I have faith in it. I love this song myself. But are you still kind of surprised at this? Like, does this still shock you?
Oh, I'm always surprised. Like, when I feel like I've been in this industry for so long that, like, and specifically like in acting or music, like, you put so many like irons in the pot, or I'm not even sure if that's the saying, but you put so many irons in to like see which one like catches fire or whatever. And 90% of the time it doesn't, because that's just what it is. That's what entertainment is. And so I'm always surprised when something goes well, but I'm of the mindset, like, I think, a lot of this industry is luck. But I think if you work really, really hard and you put yourself in a position for when luck strikes that you can take it to the next level is like how I view it all. So like, I'm going to work my butt off so that when I get lucky, that I am so ready that I can like bump up to the next level.
Wow.
And I feel like that's what it was with all these songs. It was just like, I believe in this song. I'm going to work hard. And I just hope that people respond as well. And if they don't, on to the next one. It's kind of like my mentality when it comes to putting out music. Like, I just want to keep putting out the best that I can at this moment. And that's all I can do. That's all, you know, that's the best I can do right now. And that's what's been so cool to see, like those moments where people also think it's good and like the stars align.
I have to say that's incredibly inspiring, and I'm so glad I chose you for this month, because that is one of the work ethic. Yeah, people say it's luck and you got to know the right people, but again, you have to work. It's not all luck; it's mostly work, right? And what you've just said, that you just on to the next one. Okay, like keep going, and it comes across that way. And as a music director, I have to tell you, MacKenzie, like I pretty much know that, and it's a guarantee that I know there's a new MacKenzie Porter coming. For the last 3 years, I just know, and I'm always looking forward to it. And I knew we're gonna get to pick up in just a second, but because then Drinking Songs came out, right? Drinking Songs, the EP came out, and it was just like it was another one. It was another one where it was like, wow. And it seems like you have figured out, again, with Drinking Songs, following the other 3 singles, you have remained exactly who you came into this business as. You are still true to yourself. Again, going back to the beginning of our conversation, MacKenzie, you're talking about the people that you listen to and that pop and country and that fusion. That's still who you are. And every song you can hear that. And I praise you for that. And I appreciate it because it's consistency. And that's what not only music directors and radio stations look for. Listeners, your fans, right? It's okay to try different things like you did with These Days, and the different version, which was amazing. But you're still consistent. It was like, okay, here's these 2 versions, and then on to the next one, as you said. So that's brilliant. Yeah. So in saying that, now we've got Pickup. Oh my goodness. And I'll tell you the reason why I love it. And I say this every time I play this. We played it we played it right away. And
thank you.
Of course. And what I love the most about this is not only that it's MacKenzie Porter, and you're following up another number one with Dustin Lynch. That needs to be mentioned quickly, because that's amazing too. But Pickup is a song oh my gosh, you're looking back and you're really, you're full of regret, but in such a fun way that you know that moment where you're not really that brokenhearted and that you're missing out, but you're kind of going, ooh, like it's a pickup that you're thinking about. It isn't the moments, romantic dinners and things like who's driving in that pickup right now. And it so captures that moment of, after a breakup, there's that little twinge of jealousy, even though you don't really care, but you care, but you don't. It's so much fun. Yes. It's so much fun. And it's so fun to sing. Oh my gosh. And like I said, it makes me feel like I'm 14 again in my bedroom with my Cosmopolitan magazine, and Kool-Aid next to me. Takes me back. Does this song do the same for you? I'm wondering.
Yeah, you know what? Like, you're totally right. Like, hit the nail on the head when you talk about that feeling of like, maybe you don't want to be with that person, but like, you also don't want anybody else to be with that person. And that's so like evil to say, but that is a feeling that's like, it's not okay to feel that, but you do feel it after a breakup where you're like, I don't want to be there, but I also don't want any other girl there or any other guy there. And, we were writing a song about like that feeling of that. And also like this life that you could have lived with somebody and now somebody else is kind of living that life and like sitting in the same spot you sat or like talking about the same things you talked about. And he's doing the same things or she's doing the same things with that person. And just, that feeling, I love to write songs about just like the most basic feelings, which is like love, heartbreak, or like, lifestyle kind of
Mm.
songs, but mostly love and heartbreak, because that's what I relate to the most when I listen to music. And it's just like a simple concept that we try to do in a different way.
Well, and it's brilliant, and I love that you said simple and basic, because and what's basic and simple about it is that we all feel it. We all feel it, and we can't
Right.
sometimes put it into words until we hear that song. Because I remember when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh yeah!" Like that feeling of thinking about this girl, right, being on the in the passenger seat, and when you say the cranking up the music way too loud, I was like that. Like that for me is like, as I love music so much, it related instantly, and it's fun. And it's fun. So I think it's done brilliantly. And again, I have to thank you. You're very welcome. I have to thank you for reminding me that I still, at the age I am now, right? I'm not a teenager by any stretch. I'm in my 30s, but I want to thank you for reminding me that it's okay to still feel the way I used to when I was 14. It's life. So that's brilliant.
100%. I mean, I'm married, and I still, like, if I see an ex with somebody else, there's like this little tinge, and I'm like, what is wrong with me that I still feel? But I don't know. That's whatever. That's human emotion. As long as you don't act on it, then you're good.
Yeah. Well, and that's something special about girls too. I often say we have the ability to feel a billion different emotions simultaneously,
100%.
right? And so I think what you do brilliantly is capture that very concept in every single song you release. And so that's why I think you're absolutely brilliant. Oh, amazing. So I needed to talk to you about it.
You made me feel so good. I'm so confident. Thank you for being so sweet.
Well, no problem. You make it easy, MacKenzie. So I wish you all the best. And once again, I'm so thrilled that I got to speak with you and that you're going to be part of this Women's History Month, because like I said, when you're breaking records that the first woman that we highlighted this month set, it just goes hand in hand. And so for Canada, for Alberta, we just love you, and congratulations on all your success, and more to come for sure. More to come.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was like such a great time talking with you as well.